From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
And we're back with another episode of Dale Carter's America, the transition episodes between the Joe Biden administration and the second Donald Trump administration, which we, hoped for, longed for, promoted, gave you all the reasons to do it, and America, in a very loud voice, said that's the direction they wanted to go. The direction you should go for insurance needs, our guy Bob Watson. State Farm Insurance. State Farm is one of the best brands in insurance. And the guy in the Kansas City Metro who's done it the longest, 50 years as a State Farm agent. He's based in Blue Springs, but that doesn't mean he's stuck in Blue Springs. He can do anybody in Missouri or Kansas. 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. Get a quote. Bundle your home and car insurance and save even more. If it's important enough for you to insure, Bob Watson is the guy that you need. So we appreciate Bob Watson being part of the podcast because we got a lot to get to today. Trump's Cabinet 2.0 is coming out, but before we get into any of that, this is where Kurt usually tells you all the ways you can be part of Dale Carter's America, and more importantly, to share the good news with everyone you know.
Absolutely. Share the good news. We've talked about it. Now that Trump's won, it's our job and our responsibility to hold these people to account and make sure that they're doing what we actually elected them to do. And so that's what we'll be doing for the next 4 years. So make sure you're tuning in. Check us out on YouTube or Rumble for the video podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, drop a like, drop a comment. It all helps with the algorithm to get us in front of new people. You can also listen to the audio-only version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and then follow us on Facebook as well. Join in the conversation.
By the way, before we get into all the cabinet stuff, do you have the whatever the check is so that you can fly more easily?
Oh, are you talking about the Real ID thing?
Yeah, the Real ID thing.
No, we haven't done that yet.
I did that this past weekend. You can go online to set up all the stuff that you need to do to prepare for it, and then you have to actually go to the airport to complete it. And they've got a kiosk there at Kansas City International. It is right across from where Southwest Airlines ticketing is. And you go there, and it's like these phone booths that are there that are all set up, but they've got people ready to help you, and they take your fingerprints and all that, and they send it off to the FBI. So right now I'm flying this weekend. I'm going to Charlotte to see the Chiefs and Panthers game on Sunday. And I am tired of going through that line. Now, here's the reason. Last year and a half, Kurt, I'm not making this up. I go there, I go through the thing where you put your hands up, you know what I'm talking about? The X-ray machine and all that. And it shows that there's a problem. There's like this yellow square over my crotch.
It shows like a tiny little thing down there.
Whatever.
Like, it's way bigger than that, I swear.
You would think that, it would be so small that it wouldn't even detect on the X-ray. Yet there's this square, and it's happened the last 18 months, I guess, no matter what I wear. Sweats, jeans, underwear, no underwear, and I swear to God, there's nothing. I'm kind of wondering if I've got a tumor in there that's making the thing go off. And you know how it is. When you come out of there, you get the TSA guy who looks at you with the droopy look, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, man.
Like, you know what happens now.
I'm just doing my job.
Drop him.
Yeah, well, you don't know how to drop them, but you definitely get felt up.
Yeah.
And not in a nice way. I mean, if I could have like a nice female agent who looked really pretty, that might be something.
That's never how it works.
But that's not how it works. No, they give you a guy, And a guy in Florida told me that the way you get around that, he said you got to spread your legs wider. I know we got a lot to get to, but this is on my mind. So spread your legs wider. He says
in the thing? In the
thing.
Because
it's got like feet that you're supposed to put your feet in.
Yeah.
And he says, spread them wider because you got to make room for the twig and the berries. That's what he told me. So I tried that at KCI, and this woman TSA agent goes, get your feet in the things. I'm like, well, the guy in Florida, I don't care what he told you. Get your feet in the things.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my way around that because I'm sick of having my junk felt up every time I fly, and hopefully and my wife goes, well, let's hope the FBI hasn't listened to your podcast because
yeah, I mean that is a little shady, isn't it?
It might be a problem.
We already have enough surveillance as it is, but
and we're in that transition time between Biden and Trump. So as we go forward and we get into the cabinet nominations that are coming out, I want you to remember, and we're going to contrast a lot of this with the way that Joe Biden came in, because Joe Biden came in with the trifecta on the Democrat side. Trump comes in with the trifecta on the Republican side. So we're going to get into all of this and maybe how it's changed since 2016. I don't know if you were politically aware in 2016, Kurt, when Donald Trump came in the first time, but he probably didn't know what the hell he was doing. Right? He ran for president because everybody told him he could probably fix everything. And, much to everyone's surprise, including his, he won.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
And he put himself, in the Republican bin, if you will, and just started selecting people for various jobs. And some of them were very bad selections. I think this time around, he's learned from that. And I think the process that began with a chief of staff shows you how he has learned from the process. And I think there's definite themes and trends coming in the people that he has picked so far. So we'll get into all of that. But first, if you get into a deer, and it is deer season in the Kansas City area, and Steve Parker, our traffic guy, says, car deer accident this morning, injuries only to the deer. It'll still mess up your day, right?
Yeah.
That's why you got to get Dale's Body Shop involved here. And you don't even have to know where it is because you're not going to drive your car to Dale's Body Shop. Probably a tow truck is going to take it there. So if you get in an accident in the Kansas City area and it's salvageable, they're going to say, where are we taking this thing? Tell them to take it to Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs. There's only one. It's the original. Been serving Kansas City since 1987. It's a local company. Dale Reynolds is the guy who runs it, and he knows what he's doing. You'll get it back in showroom condition. They buy all the stuff locally. It's a local company. They're taking care of customers, and they'll take care of you at Dale's Body Shop on 40 Highway in Blue Springs. Medicare Simplified KC, boy, we've got a big day coming up here. We had Kirk Doris on the podcast last week talking about December 7th. That is the day that's looming out there, so you can get any changes made to your Medicare. Okay, if you're 65 or older, you know that, and it's not a very big window. It's coming up on December the 7th. So before you make any changes, get these experts in Medicare on your side. If you're a returning client, you know how good they are. And if you're not, well, let's give them a try for the first time. If you're approaching 65, these are the people you need to talk to because Medicare, because it's a government-run program, is a maze. Let's make sure that you get exactly what you need. MedicareSimplifiedKC.com is the website that Kurt is strolling through here as we're talking about it. You can reach him on the phone at 816-701-6661. And again, MedicareSimplifiedKC.com is the website.
Tremendous people.
So 2016 Trump was a newbie at all of this, the outsider who came in and won. But now he knows, I think, who the good guys and the bad guys are, right? And he wants to hit the ground running. And I think there's a theme here, Kurt. It's let's get shit done.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
And disrupt the way things are being done. I think that is the mandate here. And for my Democrat friends, and it's interesting, since the election, have you noticed there have been none of the trolls on our Facebook page? They've disappeared. They don't have anything to say.
Now that you said that, they're going to come back.
Oh, I'd love for them to come back because I'd love for them to explain to me how the Democrat Party is going to move forward after this ass-kicking that Donald Trump put on them. And the coattails. He took with him the United States Senate and the House now, officially in Republican hands. And it all starts with the lady who helped him win the election, who will be the first female chief of staff in American history. But unlike Biden, I don't think Trump has the scoreboard in the basement that says, I need one of these, I need one of those. Trump's looking for the best people to get the job done, and Susie Wiles is his choice for chief of staff. And what I'm hearing, I didn't know anything about her. Did you?
No, not really.
I mean, it's kind of a cool factoid that her dad was Pat Summerall, who was the kicker for the New York Giants and then a longtime play-by-play man on CBS.
Her dad is Pat Summerall?
Was, right.
Huh. Interesting.
And, you know, in her book that she wrote, she talked about the fact that Pat went through his alcoholism phase, and she was there to get him through that.
Right.
We don't have that with Donald Trump because he doesn't even drink alcohol, but there are times, I think you would agree, when Donald Trump is his own worst enemy. And Susie Wiles is somebody who's respected on both sides of the aisle. And unlike last time, remember he came in, I think he put one of the generals in charge, like Flynn, wasn't he chief of staff or something like that?
I don't remember.
And, you know, that choice was very bad, and he had to make a lot of changes early on. He fired pretty much all of his cabinet at one point or another because he made the wrong choices, and then he figured out who was going to be the best choice. And we're going to start with his campaign co-chair, Susie Wiles, and I think she's going to steer that ship.
Reince Priebus, 2016.
Oh, okay. I guess I remember that because he was the head of the Republican National Committee.
Yeah.
So, again, that just shows that Trump didn't know any of the players when he came in, and he was listening to a lot of other people. And now he's got Susie Wiles in his ear, and I think that's going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, is she good? I honestly, I don't, like I said, I don't know much about her. I have some opinions on some of the other appointments, but I don't know as much about her. So hopefully she knows what she's doing.
Okay. So Secretary of State, that's going to be Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, who opposed Donald Trump in 2016. They have since become friends. Marco Rubio is Cuban descent. And I guess we could check that box. If we were Democrats, we'd check that box. He's the first Cuban American to be Secretary of State.
Is this one confirmed? I know that was reported last week. I haven't seen anything since.
No, he's definitely, well, not confirmed. None of them are confirmed.
Not confirmed, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's actually picked
No, he's the pick.
Gotcha.
He's going to be, it's interesting because I read somewhere that he can't go to China, that because of his hard stance on China, China won't let him go there.
Interesting.
That is interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, this is one where I'm not a super huge Marco Rubio fan, to be honest. He was weak on immigration when that whole thing was happening, the Gang of Eight and all that. He has been very anti-Trump in the past, and now he's flipped, you know, when it's convenient.
What
he was
Trump could certainly see that. Why do you think Trump picked him?
I don't know. I mean, maybe he has people in his ear saying that he's the right guy for the job. I don't know. Marco Rubio is also like a war hawk. You know, he's very pro sending money and arms to Ukraine. He's very pro like bombing the shit out of Iran. You know, and he's taken a lot of money from AIPAC and other things like that are not America First organizations. So that one does trouble me a little bit, just because, you know, we want to get out of these wars. We don't want to be involved in everyone else's conflicts around the world. We want to be America first. We want to bring manufacturing and bring our troops home, you know, have a strong America first before we worry about all these other places.
Well, I'm on board with America first.
Marco Rubio is not the man for the job, in my opinion, as far as that goes.
We'll see what happens when the Senate meets, although Democrat senators like him too. So I don't think he's going to have any issue being confirmed by the Senate when he comes up. The next guy will have some problems, I think, being confirmed by the Senate. And that's Pete Hegseth. I mean, I like Pete, but what you're seeing with the media, and I predicted this was going to happen, that all of a sudden the media would be out there going, we got to do our job. We've got to vet these people. They didn't vet anybody on the Biden list. Biden was able to basically put together a cast that you would see in a carnival somewhere at the freak show. I got one of these, I got one of these, I got one of these. In fact, with his Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, he couldn't even remember the guy's name. Remember that? We played those clips. That general runs that outfit over across the river.
The black guy, come on.
Yeah, the black guy. Come on, Jack. Well, Pete Hegseth is one of the people you've seen on Fox News Channel. That's where I got to know him. But he has a distinguished military background. But what you're seeing now is they're digging into his past. And he wrote a check to a woman. He even admits he did this back in 2016. There's a sexual component to all of this. I don't know that that's going to be a forest fire that's going to keep him from being Secretary of Defense. But I like the pick. I mean, they respect him in the military. He's got that military background. And what they need to do at the Pentagon, you talk about disrupting things, that whole DEI bullshit thing that's been going through the Pentagon. Somebody needs to get in there and disrupt that, because Rush Limbaugh famously talked about the military, and he said the two things that the military is there to do are kill people and break things when necessary. And that's it. All right? I don't want to get into all this DEI crap. DEI has basically killed our government, and I think Donald Trump, that's one of the things on his list, is to get the DEI crap out of there. So Pete Hegseth is a guy who I think can go in there and make a difference.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the personal attacks and digging into the history and stuff like that, and it's very true. Even last night I was out to dinner with my folks being in town, and they had a TV just kind of in peripheral vision, and it was ABC Evening News with David Muir. Yes, David Muir. And they're going through all of the appointments, and it's like, well, this guy, paid out made a payout to a woman or something like that. This guy's been accused of XYZ, and they never did that with any of the Biden appointments.
Not one.
Of course not. And they can't, just like with everything else, they can't debate the merits of the pick or their policy or what they're going to do for the administration. It's got to be personal attacks. It's got to be either calling them racist or sexist or pulling up some, accusation from 20 years ago. So that's what they have to run on, and that's what they're going to run on. The media has learned nothing, and they suck.
All right. More media scrutiny on former Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, who has been appointed the Director of National Intelligence. Again, all this subject to Senate confirmation. When the Senate convenes in the first week of January. So there'll be a period with the new Congress being seated before January 20th, a couple of 3 weeks in there where they can get these confirmation hearings done. But there's been a lot of criticism coming from the left about Tulsi Gabbard. I even saw somewhere that somebody referred to her as a Russian asset. Are they losing their minds?
Yeah, that goes back to the whole her being put on the no-fly list, terrorist watch list thing, because it was baseless accusations that she was involved with Russia somehow. It's just more political smear jobs, and I mean, I think it's kind of poetic justice that she was put on this terrorist watch list or no-fly list, whatever it was, illegitimately, and now she's going to be in charge of the National Intelligence Agency. So,
well, Pete Hegseth, going back to him, he served in the military. Tulsi Gabbard was a colonel in the United States Army. She was a congresswoman, a Democrat congresswoman who turned on them, and so they're going to really go after her. So again, watch the media on all of these picks and then rewind the clock back to 2020 if you can and go back and see that there was zero scrutiny on any of Joe Biden's picks. And this is the president of the United States who comes in with a mandate. He's gotten the most votes of any Republican in the history of the country. He took with him the Senate and the House. Yeah, there's a language issue here because it's going to be a theme that I'm going to come back to, Kurt. So language warning here, shut the fuck up. They need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just, 2 years, you need to keep your mouths shut because this is the mandate he was given. And if he screws everything up worse than it is right now, in 2 years, you're probably going to get the House back. You might get the Senate back. And for 2 years, he'll be without any control on Capitol Hill. But right now, he's got extreme control of Capitol Hill, just like Biden did. And Biden had it for 2 years and completely squandered it. And that's why Republicans took back the House of Representatives. So that's the way our government works. When Democrats say stupid shit like, well, democracy's dead. Democracy's alive and well. And the middle of this country has shown that they've got the power. And I'll get into that a little bit later on, too, but we've got more names to go through here. John Ratcliffe, who was part of the Trump administration the first time around as his national security advisor, will be the director of the CIA. I'm okay with that. Not really a whole lot to say about John Ratcliffe.
Yeah, he's another one that I don't really know anything about. This is him, right?
Yeah, he was a congressman, and again, Trump pulled him out of Congress the first time around to be his national security advisor. Well-spoken, and we'll see what he can do with CIA.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big one, CIA, FBI, both corrupt organizations that have gone from legitimate national security to spying on Americans and politically motivated attacks on Americans, squashing free speech, coming after people that are pro-life,
Right.
Protesters and things like that, and many other such cases. So hopefully with Tulsi and with some of these other picks, that will get turned around. And, Tulsi was formerly a Democrat, as you pointed out,
Right.
but she is a better pick, I think, even than Rubio, because she's anti-war. She was in the military. She knows that, this is a bad idea. She doesn't want to be sending our money to all these foreign countries to fight their wars. So I think she'll be good on that. She's also pretty pro free speech and things. So hopefully she'll help, squash some of the politically motivated attacks that have come out of the intelligence agencies.
Yeah, well, we don't know who is going to lead the FBI yet. Christopher Wray says he's not going to be there, and he's probably pulling the plug on himself before Donald Trump would fire him. But the Attorney General nominee is probably the most controversial so far, and that is Matt Gaetz, the congressman out of Florida. I know you like him a lot. I think he's going to be a tough sell to get confirmed.
Why is that?
Well, because nobody likes him. They don't like. I mean, he's got a lot of enemies in the House. He's got some folks, Republicans in the Senate, who are going to put him under the microscope. And if he gets through, that's fine. I mean, I like the fact that he's somebody who would go into the Justice Department. This is where the disruption takes place, because you point out the FBI and the baggage that they carry forth. I mean, look at the Attorney General that we have now, Merrick Garland. Yeah. I mean, he speaks very quietly, but behind the scenes, he's turned the Department of Justice into the Gestapo for the Democrats. They keep saying that the Republicans are the Nazis and all that. We talk about projection. It's because they've got three fingers coming back at them. I mean, it was the Democrats who put people outside of school board meetings who were there to protest biological males going into the girls' bathroom and sexual assaults that were happening. They had FBI agents out in the parking lot taking down license plate numbers. They basically called Catholics terrorists. That's your Democrat Justice Department. So, I'm okay with a disruptive force going in there. The FBI needs to be completely reimagined. Or eliminated, honestly. It's a mess.
Yeah.
I think we need an FBI, but it needs to do what the original mission of the FBI was. And certainly that is not, being a Gestapo against American citizens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been the case for a long time, though. That's the thing. The original idea of the FBI, what even was that? I mean, even back during the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were
go back further than that. Go back further than that.
MK Ultra, we had all these terrible things that were happening that were directly a result of the FBI. So.
It was formed because of gangsters. I mean, they had to go after all the gangsters that were out there, the Bonnie and Clydes of the world. I mean, that's where really J. Edgar Hoover made his bones. So, I don't know. It needs to be reimagined, and the first step is a disruptive force, and that's certainly what Matt Gaetz would be. Is he too disruptive to get through the Senate? And would Donald Trump make a recess appointment of a Matt Gaetz? Is he willing to disrupt the force in Washington that much? I think he is.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and he has been loyal to Trump the entire time, which I think does matter, and it certainly matters to Trump. And he is a disruptive force. The fact that people in Congress don't like him is a good thing, not a bad thing.
It's a bad thing if you're trying to get confirmed.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess we'll see. Hopefully, my hope with this is that we are fresh out of a landslide Republican victory and a huge movement towards the Senate, the House, and the White House. So there's going to be pressure on Congress and the Senate to confirm these people. I think
the clock is ticking for Donald Trump, because there is no second term that's going to come out of this. He knows he's got 4 years, and quite frankly, he's got 2 to make a major impact and show the electorate that he was right and Biden was wrong. We know that, but he's got 2 years to get in there and disrupt it and fix a lot of the things that Joe Biden did. This is a lot of political capital. Political capital is a real thing. No matter who you are when you come in, no matter what your mandate was, you have a limited amount of political capital, and this is expending a lot of it to get this guy confirmed. We'll see what happens. Homeland Security is Kristi Noem. I get my Dakotas confused. North or south?
South.
Okay. South Dakota governor. And, I've heard some of the pundits say, oh, yeah, South Dakota, that's really big on the homeland security front with no border with anybody. Think of the asshat who she would be replacing. What the hell did he ever do?
Yeah, true.
He's been a disaster. And again, no scrutiny from the media, certainly no scrutiny from the left. There was never even a question about it. And he got by with saying the border was secure. So anyone with a pulse is going to be an improvement over that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with her, again, I don't really know much about her. I just wonder
what the job she wanted.
I wonder what her qualifications are. I mean, the one thing that I do know that we have talked about.
What were Mayorkas's qualifications?
Sure, yeah, but
since nobody ever asked him about it,
right? But I mean, that doesn't mean that she's a good pick. I mean, you still have to have qualifications. Just because you're better than the other guy, you're better than a ham sandwich, doesn't mean that you're.
She's got better hair than he does.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, we did talk about at one point. She did sign an anti-Semitism bill that cracks down on free speech in South Dakota and nationally. It's moving towards that, where any criticism of Israel is considered anti-Semitism, and it's moving towards this hate speech crackdown, which is really troubling to me. I mean, I'm definitely not in favor of that. So I don't know if, as director of the Department of Homeland Security, is she going to be cracking down on speech of Americans? Is that a concern of hers? Is that considered Homeland Security? You can't criticize Israel. You can't criticize the actions of the American government and who they're funding. That would certainly be a problem. So I'm curious about what her policy positions are in terms of Homeland Security, what her qualifications are. Maybe I need to look into that further. But
all right. So Senator Kurt there is going to get involved in that one. This is one of those where I don't know enough about her, and I give him the benefit of the doubt, being Donald Trump, and getting his team in place. And again, that's what the cabinet is all about. That is giving the president his team, unless there is a major, major reason why that person should not be confirmed. EPA, Lee Zeldin, congressman out of New York. He is somebody who is very well versed in EPA regulations and their impact on his home state of New York. And again, this is where business gets throttled, because you've got this agency over here with this regulation, and just when you're trying to basically obey that regulation, here's an overlapping regulation that runs counter to this regulation. This agency tells you this agency tells you that, and Lee Zeldin is a guy who's going to go in there and untangle those stereo wires and hopefully bring some common sense to what's happening at the EPA that's holding back business.
Yeah, he got kind of a lot of mainstream exposure during COVID, right?
Well, he ran for governor.
When he ran for governor, yeah, and that was was that 2020 that he ran?
I
or
believe that's right.
Maybe?
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. I remember that.
But Lee Zeldin's a good guy, smart guy, and I think he can bring some sanity to the EPA. Chris Wright is the designated energy secretary, and I know nothing about him. I read some of the things about him in terms of where he is on energy. He's apparently a very smart guy. He's into fracking. He's into a full approach of energy, which would take everything from oil, natural gas, solar, wind, nuclear.
He's the CEO of Liberty Energy, North America's second largest hydraulic fracturing company.
Everything would be on the table, and that's what America needs right now, to get back to where we were under Trump. Remember, under Trump, we were a net exporter of oil.
Right.
The United States was a net exporter of oil. And the first thing he's going to have to do is replenish the strategic reserve, because Joe Biden was using that as his personal candy dish to try and keep gas prices artificially low. And he was failing at that. And now we've got to replenish the strategic reserve, because God knows what the Democrats are going to get us into before Donald Trump is sworn in on January 20th. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. But Chris Wright is an interesting private sector pick for the cabinet. Back to the New York delegation, Elise Stefanik has been tapped for UN ambassador. I know that she has a lot of respect in the Republican caucus in the House. That was Nikki Haley's old job. Remember Donald Trump, I don't know if you saw this or not, but he made a statement that Nikki Haley would not be involved in the government moving forward. There was somebody else on that list. Who was the other person on that list?
Oh, crap.
Oh, I can't think of who it was.
It was Pompeo.
Yeah, Mike Pompeo will not be part of the government either. So Elise Stefanik, no real strong feelings about her one way or the other. You?
I do. I don't know if I want to say it or not, but I do. Yeah. I'll say it. I mean, I just don't. I don't know if a woman has the mental strength and aggression needed to represent America in the UN on the world stage. I'm just going to say it. Sorry.
Cards and letters to Kurt Wheeler on that.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we get that out there.
Yep.
I could not disagree more with that. I don't know whether she is the one for it, but he thinks that, and so we'll go forward with that.
I mean, Nikki Haley was decent, so maybe I'm wrong on that. Nikki Haley, before she
what if Margaret Thatcher were an American?
A turncoat, anti-Trumper. She was a decent UN ambassador, but I just think we need like a real bull in a china shop, to tell all those people to go screw themselves. So
again,
hopefully she has the mental fortitude to do that. We'll find out.
What if Margaret Thatcher were an American?
Yeah, I mean, not all.
Okay. You got to be careful painting with a broad brush. RFK Jr., Health and Human Services. This is one of the funniest things because the Democrats are losing their absolute shit over RFK Jr. going in to Health and Human Services. This is where they check the box for the trans dude, right?
Well, yeah, but that wasn't the director.
Okay.
So you're talking about Rachel Levine.
Yeah.
That was not the director. That was an assistant director to something or other within HHS. So not the director. I don't know who that was in the Biden administration.
The funniest thing I've seen on RFK Jr. was the New York Times editorial where he was talking about the difference between Fruit Loops that are sold in Canada and the ones sold in America. Did you see the editorial on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Where he talks about all the ingredients that are in Fruit Loops that aren't in the Canadian Fruit Loops. And the editorial says, well, it's the same amount. They're just using carrots and blah, blah, blah. And we're using, all these long names.
Sodium glyphosate.
Yeah, exactly.
Copophate.
What's the difference? I don't see any difference there. I mean, I saw somebody on X said, I just read that and spit my coffee out through my nose.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, and the media is really exposing themselves with the RFK Jr. pick because his big thing is health. Obviously, he wants to cut back on seed oils, on fluoride in the water, among other things. But the seed oil thing has been really interesting to me because that's been exposed in a big way over the past few years. Is how damaging seed oils are to it's what basically is what is making Americans so fat is cooking with seed oils and consuming seed oils, and it's been proven. And so now you have people like RFK Jr. who are advocating for use of animal fats like butter, beef tallow, things that are actually very healthy for you. And so now the media has to counter that by coming out with stories. There was a story that I saw the other day where they were writing about how butter is actually really bad for you and seed oils are great, because they support XYZ. It's total bullshit. So they have to defend big seed oil to counter RFK Jr.
I wonder if Ted Kennedy is rolling over in his grave. What about Bobby Kennedy? What about John F. Kennedy? Icons of the Democrat Party for generations. And now Bobby Kennedy's son is now in a Republican administration.
Honestly, I don't think they would mind. I think he is probably similar to them in a lot of ways in terms of his policy. He's strong on a lot of issues that they were strong on. The old Democrat Party was strong on. And, he's still a Democrat. He supports green energy. He's anti-oil. He's pro-choice in terms of that issue and many other things, in terms of when he was running for president. So I didn't want to see him as president. I certainly think he was a better choice than Kamala Harris or some of those options, but I didn't want to see him as president. But I think him being put in charge of HHS is one of the best picks that Trump has made, and he is that's his role. That's the best role for him is getting America healthy again. Make America healthy again.
Will he start with Donald Trump? I mean, will he make sure that there's no McDonald's food on Air Force One?
Yeah. So did you
that
see
might be
that,
a tough sell.
Did you see that picture of them after UFC? They were all eating McDonald's, and the look on RFK's face was like hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can.
I don't think RFK Jr. eats a lot of McDonald's food.
Well, he has said that he's fine with McDonald's, but he wants them to go back to cooking with beef tallow, which is apparently what McDonald's used to be made of was beef tallow they use for their cooking oil instead of seed. This is funny too. So this is the picture, and you can see their. Oh, come on. Let me see if I can get this.
Blow it up.
Picture. Yeah, here we go. So there's all of them together, and then look at RFK's face. He's like, he's like stuck with the McDonald's. But and then this post was really funny too. Somebody pointed out, what was it? This 1721 painting by Dietz Knudsen predicted the Trump Elon RFK McDonald's dinner.
Love that.
So this is the 1721 painting. And then this is the picture from Trump Force One.
Something else
UFC.
In that picture I want to go back to is Don Jr. And he's holding up a thing of French fries there. One of the driving forces behind these pics that you're seeing is his son, Don Jr.
Yeah.
And Don Jr. is trying to make sure that his dad hits the ground running with everything he needs behind him. And then he said he's going to go back to the private sector. He's going to run the Trump organization. But right now, he is one of the most important people driving this thing. And he's the reason that RFK Jr. is there. He's the reason.
This is so funny.
That is funny. It's like, you think I'm going to eat that?
He's like, you're trying to catch me in like a bad situation here. I've been shitting on fast food for 20 years.
But he's also Don Jr. is also the reason behind Elon and Vivek, which we're going to get to. But first, we can't skip over Doug Burgum. Nobody knows how to spell his name correctly. I had to look it up. It's Burgum, Doug Burgum. He was also governor of one of those Dakotas, north, south, somewhere out there.
Governor of North Dakota. There you go. The other one.
He ran for president. And I don't think he ever got above 1%, but he is going to be the Secretary of Agriculture.
That's hilarious. I mean, that's why these people run for president. Can we just acknowledge
to get into a
the
cabinet?
elephant in the room?
Yeah.
This is why he runs for president. Nobody knows who the heck he is. Nobody's going to vote for him. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
It's so that he can suck up to Trump and get an
appointment. Cabinet officers, I don't know if you know this, but the chair that they have in the cabinet room has their name and cabinet level position in a plaque on the back of the chair.
Nice.
And they get to take it with them when they leave Washington.
There you go.
Maybe
put that up in the home office.
Maybe not after Elon and Vivek get through with him with the Government Efficiency Board, but we'll get to that in a second. I want to save that for last. I wrote in here Department of Transportation because that was the most recent pick by Donald Trump. And again, we're recording this on a Tuesday. You're going to get it on a Wednesday. More names will be dropped in here, but we thought we should go through what's been done so far. Sean Duffy is going to be the Department of Transportation Secretary under Donald Trump, another former member of Congress, another former Fox News host. He's taken a lot of folks from Fox. He didn't take anybody from MSNBC.
No.
That we're aware of.
This guy, right?
Yeah, Sean Duffy.
I don't watch Fox, so I don't know who any of the people are.
Good guy,
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, they're good guys. They toe the line. They talk the talk and all that. I know that Sam Graves, Missouri congressman out of the 6th District, was one of the folks who was being considered for transportation secretary. And again, there was no pushback on Joe Biden. Remember who his transportation secretary was and is?
Yeah.
Pete Buttigieg. Yeah. The mayor of South Bend, Indiana. Doesn't even have an international airport in South Bend. What were his qualifications for being transportation secretary? I'll tell you, one. It's all that mattered. He was gay.
Yep.
And
I'd say congratulations.
And early on, I guess they adopted a child, and he took paternity leave for like 8 weeks.
Yeah.
In a temporary job. These are all temp jobs. Okay, this goes with the administration of Donald Trump, which at the longest is going to be 4 years. So out of a 4-year Joe Biden term, He took 8 weeks off in the middle of a lot of stuff. They had the derailment in Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio. He was gone. Yeah, Pete's not here. He's on paternity leave.
Yep.
Yeah.
There it is. There you have it.
And again, no pushback on that. So you folks in the media and you people on the left, shut the fuck up. He needs to put together his team in order to fix this. He's got 2 years to do it. And then if he doesn't do it, you can come back. One of the newest agency will be the Department of Government Efficiency. Elon and Vivek are going to work on that. And I love this because I'm a debt hound. What's the current debt? 36 trillion and growing? $1 trillion every 100 days. Elon says, and he's a smart guy, that he can find $2 trillion to cut. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think $2 trillion within 2 years was the mandate from Trump.
Yeah, and they're going to be transparent about it. They're going to show you what they're cutting. I looked this up. We have 2.3 million federal employees.
Crazy.
That is crazy. And that's not the military. There's another 2 million that are in the military. So it comes in at like 4.3 million federal employees. What in the hell do they do? And can we shrink government back to what it does well and let the rest of it fall to the states? I mean, that's the way the Constitution is drawn up. That's what we should be doing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're going to do. And again, they're going to be under the microscope. They're going to cut some stuff that is going to make Democrats squeal like stuck hogs. But because they don't have majorities in either house, they need to shut up.
Yep, I agree. And, I'm hoping that they will actually move forward with making some huge cuts. And there's been some confusion about this, too, because, of course, the liberal media came out and said, well, you have to get approval from Congress to create a new department, et cetera, et cetera. This is not an official department of the executive branch. This is a non-governmental group that they're putting together that's going to make recommendations to the president. So
yeah, kind of like John Kerry, who was like the environment czar.
Right.
I mean, that's not a cabinet level position that was created by the Biden administration. So it's very similar to that. So I wish them Godspeed. Cut. Let's get that thing shrunk down. Let's get it going the other way. And Democrats will say, well, Trump put this much on the debt. Biden put this much on the debt. They all put too much on the debt. We've got to get it going the other way if we're going to save this country long term. And there need to be some uncomfortable conversations had. Conversations about Medicare, conversations about Social Security, things that have been the third rail of American politics. And if we don't touch that third rail long term, we're not going to make it. We will drown in a pool of our own debt.
I agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of cuts that can be made from things that are way more obvious before we have to touch those things, but those things will have to be touched at some point. And it also means that we can't be sending $100 billion to Ukraine and $50 billion to Israel and sending all of our weapons overseas and all of those things. So we need to be looking at that as well. I don't know if that'll fall within their purview or not, but I think they can. It's really not hard. There's you look at some of these reports. I know Rand Paul has that report he puts out every year about all the wasteful spending that's happening, and they're spending, $10,000 on a toilet or, all this crazy stuff. So if we actually just implement the stuff that he's pointing out and cut back on those things, I mean, there's a huge chunk that can be done just from pure waste and nothing else.
Well, there's no serious conversation about this that's not going to involve Medicare and Social Security. I mean, just look at the unfunded mandates that go for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, it's not good. So that's the cabinet so far. And again, this is the team that Donald Trump and Susie Wiles want around them. And I said something, a Democrat pushed back on me. I said that Susie Wiles will be the second most important person in the West Wing behind the president. And they're like, you don't know what you're talking about because the vice president would outrank her. The Speaker of the House would outrank her. What I'm talking about is access to the president and basically overseeing all of the West Wing. She's really important in this administration. So we'll see how that all shakes out. I feel really good about this cabinet so far. We'll see how it goes moving forward. We still don't have a Secretary of the Treasury, which I think is going to be important. The money people, that's what we haven't heard yet. A lot of it's foreign policy. A lot of it is, things like the EPA, ag, transportation. But we're going to have to get into the money part of this at some point, too. And I know Donald Trump is taking his time on naming a Treasury Secretary.
Yeah.
So.
And you bring up a good point, too, with the staffing, which people don't talk about very often, but obviously with the chief of staff, but with these other appointments, too, it's not just about the leadership and the direction of the department or what they're going to be focusing on or what their policy is, but it's also about staffing the department or firing people.
Yeah.
Getting rid of the people that are in there now that are part of the deep state that we always talk about. We need to drain the swamp. We need to, get rid of the deep state. That's who we're talking about. It's all the people who are not elected, who are staffing all these departments and agencies, who are actually writing the policy, who are actually putting together these things that we bitch and moan about. So hopefully these people in these departments and in these leadership positions will be able to get better people in and do good with the staffing.
Well, you remember when Project 2025 came out and the Democrats were using that as their crucifix of the day. It's like, Project 2025, bad, bad, bad. I told you I read through it, and there's some good stuff in there. Right. Okay. And this is what they're talking about with Elon and Vivek. I mean, we've got to go through this government with an enema, because there's so much shit in there that we've got to clean out, which takes me to Dr. Mark Taramina. What do you think?
Great.
Pretty
Great
good segue there.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because he's the guy that's going to help you live, right? If you're 45 or older, there is a risk of colon cancer. Going back to Bobby Kennedy Jr. being involved in the Trump administration, think about all the things that we eat, all the things that we breathe in this country. That's why the colon cancer line has moved from 50 to 45. It's happening to younger people. And don't tell me you don't have it in your family, because you could be the first in your family with colon cancer. How would you like that to be on your tombstone? I was the first in my family with colon cancer, and it killed me because I didn't want to go get my colonoscopy. Get your colonoscopy scheduled. It's quick. It's easy. Dr. Taramina has even made the PrEP thing, which used to be the thing that kept people from going. He's even made that more palatable. I know because I just went through it myself. Get that colonoscopy. If you've got polyps, let them send them off and get them back and come up with a plan for you to kick it. And if you don't have polyps, you don't have to do it again for 10 years. It's simple. It's easy to do. One-stop shopping at Midwest GI Health and Wellness. They're in Lee's Summit, 816-836-2200. They're on the web at midwestgihealth.com. And I'll tell you, I would put him in my cabinet, and I'd let him take his little hose with him that he sticks up everybody's butt. Take that to Washington and put it in that agency, and suck all the shit out of there, and you'll be amazed that debt number and the deficit number will start going the other way. It'll be amazing.
That's a fantastic endorsement.
Well, I try and come up with creative ways to sell this sort of stuff. There's really no creative way to sell the real estate market because it's going to sell itself. Rates are going to come down. The housing market is going to become more and more competitive. You need a guy on your side, and we got a guy for that. His name's Michael Schroer, real estate pro with RE/MAX Heritage. You can reach him at 816-783-5800. We all go through various stages of life. When you move out of your parents' house, you probably go to an apartment first, and then you get married, and it's like, well, let's get that cute little house over there because we're going to have little baby Joey. And then Joey might get a brother, a sister. Maybe there's 4 of them. And then you need a bigger house. And then they go through school and they move out of school. So you need to downsize. Maybe you found a perfect piece of land that you want to build on. Michael Schroer can help you with every stage of your real estate life. 35 years he's been doing residential and commercial construction. He's our guy, licensed in both Missouri and Kansas. If you're ready to sell your house, to move up, or maybe buy your first-time home, let Michael help you out. 816-783-5800. Michael Schroer at RE/MAX Heritage in Lee's Summit. So Democrats just don't get it. They really don't. Maybe they do get it, and maybe they just don't care how shameless they look. This is 2020, and instead of blue, it's red. Okay? The red wave came through. Now Now, you got us in 2022 in the midterm because you convinced women out there that, if Republicans won, no woman would ever be able to get an abortion. You convinced them of that. And that's why there was no red wave in 2022. Well, they didn't believe you the next time around because states everywhere that voted for Donald Trump, including very conservative, very red Missouri, also passed the abortion amendment. I didn't like it. Kurt, I know you don't like it, but that's what happened. They passed the abortion amendment with no limits, and that's my big issue with it. 0 limits. And they voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. So that crucifix you can put away. And then remember what Chuck Schumer said and did when the Democrats controlled the Senate back in 2020? The things that they tried to do. They were going to take away that nasty filibuster. You think they want to do that now?
Hell no.
I mean, that's all they've got right now is the filibuster, and they can thank Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin because they stopped him from doing that, along with Republicans. They had 50 votes, and they had Kamala Harris ready to break that tie because she broke so many ties that spent trillions of dollars of our tax money. So Chuck Schumer, really more than anyone else, ought to be the guy to shut the fuck up. But he can't help himself. He goes into the Senate and he makes this absurd speech given his history.
I hope that after last week we can put to rest the fantasy of stolen elections and rigged outcomes. 4 years ago, the losing side refused to accept the will of the people, and it led to a violent insurrection.
Wasn't an insurrection.
In the U.S. Capitol.
No.
This year, we will not go down that dark and violent path. To my Republican colleagues,
this is the important part.
I offer a word of caution in good faith. Take care not to misread the will of the people, and do not abandon the need for bipartisanship. After winning an election, the temptation may be to go to the extreme. We've seen that happen over the decades, and it's consistently backfired on the party in power. So instead of going to the extremes, I remind my colleagues that this body is most effective when it's bipartisan.
I mean, seriously, you can stop it right there. I mean, that's where a lightning bolt should have come through the Capitol and seared his fading hairline. I mean, really, they have no shame.
Yeah, did he say that when Biden won? Did he say that to the Democrats?
Oh, no. He said, we're running the show around here. You've got no say.
Democrats, don't forget about bipartisanship or bipartisanism, whatever the word is. Don't go too extreme, Democrats, on your policy and your rhetoric. No.
Now, he's really lucky that Thune is running the show in the Senate now because he was already asked, would you take away the filibuster? And he said no. Because he knows that the way this goes in cycles, there will come a time again when Republicans will be in the minority, Democrats will be in the majority, and I guarantee you they'll try and stick it up our ass in ways like this. We've got control now. Why aren't we adding Supreme Court justices? Right? We could do that.
Yeah.
It's not the right thing to do. It's not constitutional. Democrats don't care about any of that. All they care about is keeping and growing power. And Chuck is just completely shameless standing up there making that speech. And then you've got Biden, who is a lame duck president, right? He's going to be passing the baton to Donald Trump on January 20th. He's down in South America, and he's giving away even more of our tax dollars. He made a big speech in Peru. He said, we're going to fund your rail system. Why? Why? And, is that a check that Donald Trump can call back, right, after the fact? We're not doing that. We need to spend our money here, and we don't really have any money to spend anyway. But what we have, we need to be America first. So I agree with you 100% on that because America spoke with a very loud voice. They want America first.
America first.
Did you see this clip of Biden wandering away into the rainforest?
No, I'm not shocked. I haven't seen it. Go ahead and play it. Yeah. I love the wave. Where's he going? God, I thought that was a bear for a second, but that's somebody's head.
There he goes.
Yes, Joe.
Just wandering off.
Did you see that Gavin Newsom, again, they just don't get it. They don't read the will of these people that voted in this election. He's basically going to send rail cars from California down to Peru.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they don't get what just happened. And you do that at the peril of the American people, because the American people voted based on the economy. Can we all agree on that now? That people said there were two things. It was, going to the store and seeing your bill triple, going to put gas in your car and seeing that bill double or triple, and then watching all these people come across the border. And then, Hispanic men voted for Donald Trump in record numbers. The left and the media say, well, that just means they could never vote for a woman, certainly not a woman of color, to be president of the United States. And I thought about that for a second, and I put myself in the shoes of those Hispanic American citizens who voted in bigger numbers for Donald Trump than they ever have. And my thought process is, if I were a first-generation immigrant, I'm not. I'm like third, fourth, fifth generation, whatever the number is. And if I did everything the right way, Kurt, and I became a citizen of this great country, wouldn't it piss me off to no end that millions of people came across the border just because they could, because Joe Biden invited them? I think that's why they voted for Donald Trump in record numbers. Okay, so while this is all going on...
By the way, real quick, this one story, Caltrain equipment, that's what you were talking about from Newsom. Caltrain equipment will be used to launch new commuter operation in Peru. So they are sending train cars down to Peru.
Well, I think Newsom should go down there and run for president of Peru.
Yeah. And this is a very trustworthy source because it's coming from trains.com. So.
I love trains. All right. So what's going on over in Ukraine? The latest on that is Biden has authorized the Ukrainians to use American missiles into Russia. And Vladimir Putin is saying that we're going to lower the threshold for use of nuclear weapons from Russia. They're going to look at that as an act of war. We're already doing it. We're firing into Russia right now, and he's going to look at that as an act of war. What's going to come of that? I don't know. He's already got North Korean soldiers on the front line over in Ukraine. And I thought this was very interesting. Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, said that he thought Donald Trump as president would bring this war to a speedy end. And I like that. Let's get these people to the table. Let's get this over with, because how many billions of dollars have we pumped into Ukraine since the beginning of that war, which is 2 years old now? More than 2. It's 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
We've got to wind that down. That's not helping anybody. That's not helping Europe. It's certainly not helping the Ukrainians or the Russians, for that matter. And the North Koreans now sending soldiers in. I mean, that's got World War III written all over it. And I trust that Donald Trump is going to be able to bring that to an end. And so does Vladimir Zelensky.
I mean, it's like the Russians see that as an aggression. Obviously, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, your foreign adversary is supplying missiles for your neighbor to shoot into your country. It'd be like China sending missiles to Mexico so that Mexico could shoot missiles into America. Would we not see that as an act of war from China?
Would.
Of course we would.
We would.
Of course we would.
So, and so you've got Ukraine. And again, I'm very bullish on Donald Trump bringing that to a successful, at least an end. I don't know that you're ever going to call it a success.
Supposedly, he's already talked to Zelensky and Putin separately.
So I like that. I think that's going to happen. And then what might he do different in the Middle East? I think the first thing he's going to do, this doesn't involve us or our weapons, although they're our ally and we are giving them support in that area. I think he's going to basically tell Israel, he may have already done this, that on January 20th, the handcuffs are off. Do what you got to do. Flatten the motherfuckers if you have to. I don't care. Do it. And then he's going to tell the Iranians, he's going to say, what Israel did to you launching that big wave after you missile attacked them, that's going to look like a mosquito bite if you screw with the United States. I'll flatten you and turn that desert to glass. And he's going to find ways to take away their money, which is something Biden wouldn't do. Got us back in bed with them, with the Iran nuclear deal. Isn't that funny in retrospect with what Iran has done with the money? Because it's not Hezbollah, it's not the Houthi rebels, it's not Hamas, it's Iran. They're funding all of these people. And the only way that you cripple them is to take away the source of their money. What's the source of their money? The oil fields. Bomb the shit out of them. That's what I would do. And I would tell the Israelis, the handcuffs are off. Do what you got to do. What do you think?
I disagree.
Well, what would you do?
Not that. I mean, I'd certainly try and find a diplomatic solution to the problem. Just
What's
bombing,
the diplomatic solution? They want to kill Israel. And they look at Israel as a speed bump to coming to us.
Do you think that like bombing the crap out of them is going to make them stop wanting to destroy Israel? It's just going to It's going to make it's going to just
take away the means for them.
It's going to escalate the conflict to a world war, to a regional conflict, and then a world war.
Who's going to support
Then
Israel?
we're going to have an alliance between China, Russia, Iran. They're going to get dragged in. Now we're fighting a world war against the new powers of the BRICS nations, and it's bad news. It's just bad news. We should not be going first to bombing the shit out of people and causing
I didn't
new
say
war.
First.
Yeah, I know, but
I said take the handcuffs off Israel and let them do what they've got to do.
right, but that's what they're going to do, and we're the ones paying for them. They can't do anything without us. They can't fund their military. They can't bomb Gaza like they've been indiscriminately without our money, without our weapons, without our diplomatic support. And so, yeah, if they want to do what they want to do, that's fine. But do it on their own. We don't need to help them with that. Why?
Biden is the one who is publicly saying we support Israel in everything they do, and then behind the scenes telling them you can't do this, you can't do that, and we won't support that. So that's fighting a war with a hand tied behind your back.
Right, but I mean, if you're supplying somebody with the money that they need in order to do something, this is anything. I mean, it's like if you give money to your kid, you give your kid $100 and you say, hey, here's $100. Don't spend it all in one place. Everyone, that's like the cliche that everyone says, don't spend it all in one place. Or you're going to tell your kid, hey, don't go buy alcohol with this. Don't go buy drugs with this. Maybe like save it. Maybe put it in the bank and save it. For your college fund or something like that.
Come see me when your kids are in their 20s.
Well, it doesn't mean they're actually going to do it. It doesn't mean they're actually going to do it. But of course, you're going to tell them what you want them to do with the money. It's your money. You're giving it to them.
All right. Well, obviously, we're going to disagree on that, and we'll just see what Donald Trump does. But I've given him my advice. You want to know what bad news is? Bad news is when you get that drip, drip, drip from your ceiling and you need a new roof. That's when you need the folks at Royal Roofing and Solar. And because I believe in an all-in energy plan, of course I believe in turning your house into its own energy-producing unit. And that's where Mike Dale comes in with Royal Roofing and Solar. And he's the guy because he's going to shoot you straight. He's not going to be, oh, yeah, your house faces the wrong way, but we'll put solar panels on and you'll be great. Or there's this big tree shading your house. He's going to shoot you straight on what will work for you. And at the very least, if you need a new roof, you want Royal Roofing to do the roof. They did the roof at my house. 816-540-7057. You can find them on the web at solarbyroyal.com and royalcontractingkc.com. Good folks there. Austin Watterson and his team, fantastic folks. Funhouse Pizza. You talk about fantastic people. Jim Dingman, U.S. Marine Corps veteran. He has a couple of fantastic locations for pizza. You got Funhouse at 50 Highway in Lee's Summit and 7 Highway in Blue Springs. You got a big gathering you want to do. Maybe it's a birthday party, an anniversary party, your team meeting for whatever sport is coming up next. It's just the place to be because the food is awesome. They pile their toppings high, the beverages are cold, and it's a fun atmosphere for your kids because there's all kinds of rides and things that they can do. It's a place to have a party. Funhouse Pizza, 50 Highway Lee's Summit, 7 Highway in Blue Springs. When you go, tell Jim Dingman and the gang there that you heard about it here on Dale Carter's America. Well, we don't agree on foreign policy, especially with respect to Israel, but I bet we agree on this, Kurt. And this is closer to home, too. An ordinance in Jackson County passed by the Jackson County legislature that would restrict 18 to 21-year-olds in Jackson County from buying pistols and semi-automatic rifles, because that's their big crucifix on that. Semi-automatic. All that means is pull the trigger, bang. Pull the trigger, bang. That's semi-automatic, and what I've learned in doing this is that most weapons are semi-automatic. So no pistols, no semi-automatic rifles for 18 to 21-year-olds. In what I thought was kind of a surprise, the county executive, Frank White, vetoed that bill. And he was overridden. That's the latest news on that. By a 7-2 vote, he was overridden. So that is going to be the law in Jackson County. Now, here's the little secret about state and local government. You are not allowed to pass a law in a locality that runs counter to state law. You get that, right?
Yeah.
State law supersedes local law.
It's the supremacy clause of the U.S. Constitution.
And this violates that.
Right.
Also violates the U.S. Constitution. And it's just a stupid ordinance because you've got folks going into the military at 18. Are you telling a young Marine that he can't have a gun in Jackson County?
I guess so. I mean, it's just another example of infringing on law-abiding citizens. You know, who is going to follow this? It's people who follow the law. Who's not going to follow this?
Criminals.
It's the thugs and the gangbangers on the street who already have illegal guns. They got the Glock with the switch, you know, and they're out there shooting people. They're not going to give a shit about this. So why don't we crack down on those people? Why don't we crack down on the illegal guns, on the crime, put these people away for a long time, like you've suggested many, many times, and solve the problem that way, instead of trying to, you know, see that there's gun violence and then just enact new laws that don't affect the crime at all, only affect law-abiding citizens. It's very annoying.
It's stupid is what it is.
Yeah.
And Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey posted on social media that he would always protect the rights of Missourians to keep and bear arms. So this is not done yet, and it won't solve anything. It's not going to solve the daily black-on-black crime that we have in Kansas City. And it's just another reason that we should take the eastern suburbs and form our own county. And I'm not giving up on that. I mean, I'm getting pushback every which way I go, but there is nothing in common between Blue Springs, Independence, Grain Valley, Lee Summit, Oak Grove, and the core of Kansas City.
Right.
Nothing.
Another thing on this that we haven't talked about yet on the Second Amendment thing in particular, Trump put out his 10-point policy plan, and he's been kind of fleshing out some ideas of things that he wants to do when he gets into office. And one of those things is he mentioned he would sign a national reciprocity for concealed carry, which is huge. And as a gun owner and a concealed carry permit holder, you know, that's something that is very important to me, and it's very important to many law-abiding American citizens. You know, the fact that you're not allowed to defend yourself, you're not allowed to exercise your Second Amendment rights in many parts of this country. Should be illegal, so that'll be huge.
Well, it's not very often on this podcast when we give Frank White some kudos, but I love what he said. He says the measure is flawed, unlawful, and counterproductive. Amen, Frank White. Frank White, I know, is a good friend of Bob Watson, who is a longtime sponsor of this podcast. And Bob Watson is in Blue Springs, taking care of folks like Frank White and me at 7th and Main in Blue Springs. You can reach him at 816-229-7878. You see, insurance doesn't know Republican or Democrat. It just knows there are things that happen, and you got to pay for it. And you need to have your car insured. You need to have your house insured. You need to have your life insured, your business insured. He can do all of that out of his office in Blue Springs. He's got an awesome staff. They all speak English as a first language, and you can test that theory by calling them right now at 816-229-7878. Bundle your home and car insurance. You'll save even more money. Bob Watson, the 50-year State Farm agent, my State Farm agent for almost 30 years that I've lived in the Kansas City Metro, and I definitely endorse him, and you should at least let him give you a rate quote. Okay, a couple of things here on the way out. I have seen this. The lefties are leaving X and starting up something called Blue Sky. Have you heard about that?
I've briefly heard of it.
I'm seeing that on Facebook a lot. I'm leaving. I'm going to Blue Sky. I can only imagine, you know.
Here's what it looks like. I'm pulling it up right now.
The happy campers over on Blue Sky, where they can bitch about everything that's happening as Donald Trump fixes it, because the medicine isn't going to taste that great to begin with. But
there's Mark Cuban.
Is he on
Blue
it?
Sky.
Of course he is. Yeah. So just stay out of the way for 2 years. You have no say for 2 years. Bitch about it all you want, and I'm sure the media is going to fly spec everything, as they already are, with any pick that Donald Trump comes up with. And I said this last week, and it's true. If there is one blade of grass that's pointed the wrong way in the White House lawn, there's going to be an investigation of Donald Trump. You just know that's going to happen. So my message to the left, especially all the celebrities that are going to move. Cher was on with Jimmy Fallon last night talking about her book, and it's in 2 parts. I'm waiting for part 3, my adventure overseas, because I left this freaking country because Donald Trump became president. I don't think that's going to happen. We had a song, and I'm reusing a lot of stuff on the morning show from the first Donald Trump presidency, which is why I never throw anything away. So I had this song, and we thought we would set the song for those of you who watch the video presentation of the podcast to some of the athletes out there who are getting into the Donald Trump dance. It's like all of a sudden, you don't have to be a closet Donald Trump fan. It's like the guy won. So now you can come out of the closet and dance away in your own Donald Trump way. And we've seen a lot of athletes this past weekend at NFL games who are doing that. And there's some speculation that some of them might be fined.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Well, the NFL, the No Fun League.
Right.
So roll the song and show us the beautiful footage of people dancing as if they were Donald Trump. This is called Suck It Up, Buttercup.
It's time to suck it up, Buttercup, baby, 'cause I rule the world. Cry like a girl, but then most of all, shut your mouth, baby, you're a snowflake. Go to your safe space, boo-hoo-hoo. I'm the president, darling, just give me a big lead chance. So suck it up, Buttercup, put on your big boy pants.
It's almost like they did it in rhythm of the song. That was awesome. Yeah. So until next week, if you're one of our keyboard warriors, we haven't heard from you in a while. We kind of miss you. But I will say this, suck it up, Buttercup. Until next week, this is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.